Warm and sunny in Yerevan for the opening event of the LEAD program, the Local Empowerment of Actors for Development program, funded by the EU delegation. Before we start, I have a technical announcement to make. Հայերենի տարգմանության համար սեղմեք ձեր էկրանի վրա Globus նշան կա, այնտեղ ռուսերեն ու անգլերենի տարբերակներ կան, սեղմեք ռուսերեն ու դուք կլսեք հայերեն. This is for the people checking in and wanting to use and benefit from Armenian translation. Without further ado, because our time is limited and we have a lot to say, I would like to pass the floor to Ambassador Victorine, the head of the EU delegation in Armenia, for her opening remarks. Ambassador.
Good morning, ministers, dear governors, partners from the government, representative of the implementing partner organization, local authorities, civil society organization. I thank you so much for joining us. I was supposed to be there really in person. However, I got the information that one of the partners I met could be positive, and to keep us all safe, I decided to switch to the online format. I'm really happy today to officially launch the Local Empowerment of Actors for Development LEAD program. This 14.6 million euro program is meant to promote inclusive and sustainable socio-economic development in the 3 northern regions of Armenia. We are announcing the launch of the LEAD program just in time as the EU Armenia Comprehensive and Enhanced Partnership Agreement entered into force on the 1st of March of this year. And this will definitely broaden our cooperation. CEPA provides the framework for the EU and Armenia to work together in a wider range of areas, strengthening democracy, rule of law, and human rights, creating more jobs and business opportunity, improving legislation, public safety, a cleaner environment, as well as better education and opportunities for research and gender equality. Regional development with a special emphasis on the development of the disadvantaged areas and territorial cooperation is among the priorities of CEPA. And throughout last year, the European Union mobilized and allocated significant support to Armenia addressing the COVID-19 crisis. We have also mobilized humanitarian support to ensure assistance to civilians most affected by the conflict in and around Nagorno-Karabakh. I want to underline that the European Union is committed to continue its support to Armenia. Implementation of CEPA and the specific bilateral programs such as LEAD pursues the objective of bringing positive change in the lives of people, focusing among others on the most vulnerable groups through actions aimed at resilience building and social economic recovery. And I'm really happy and proud that today we can launch the LEAD program. The European Union has set priorities and supported regional and local development initiatives in Armenia for many years now, and I think we have a good expertise. The 3 northern regions of Armenia, Shirak, Tavush, and Lori, have been so far in the focus of the EU assistance. But I think right now, and this we are discussing with the government, we see the need to further extend our cooperation also to the southern region and especially to Munich. We are glad to be able to support piloting new methodologies in the framework of the LEAD program. This program offers an opportunity to pilot for the first time in Armenia the tested European leader methodology for rural development, which was put in place since the early 90s and has been used successfully in EU member states as well as many Eastern Partnership countries. In particular, to engage local actors in the design and the delivery of strategies and resource allocation for the development of their rural areas. Through the LEAD program, we are also happy to support a scheme for mobilizing migrant remittance to invest into development of Armenia by supporting and co-financing migrant-initiated small and medium-sized businesses across all regions in Armenia. In the course of the implementation of the LEAD program, we anticipate fruitful cooperation with all our partners, especially the Ministry of Territorial Administration and Infrastructure, the Ministry of Economy, but also the regional administrations of Chirac, Tavush and Lori, and the Migration Service of Armenia. We hope for active engagement of the local authorities, the local civil society, to make this piloting of the new methodologies really successful in Armenia. I wish all the best in the implementation of this very important and exciting program. And I sincerely thank our implementing partners, ADA, UNDP, FRO, and ICMPD. In 4 years' time, unfortunately, after my period here in Armenia, we are looking forward to learn about great initiatives and business opportunities. And I really sincerely hope that this program can help to strengthen the social economic recovery of Armenia. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ambassador, very much for your remarks. We are pleased to be joined today by the Minister of Economy of Armenia, Mr. Vahe Kirobyan. Minister, if you would like to address us. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Ambassador, Deputy Minister of Territorial Administration, dear guests and friends. 1 year ago, COVID just was began spread out throughout the world, and everything was locked down and stopped moving in the world, and I had a business at the time, and we were able to switch to online in 1 day, and everyone started to work from home. And then I thought that that I may have employees not only in Yerevan but also in rural areas, and then I thought that probably COVID is not only a disaster but also an opportunity for rural or regional communities to get more from the new structure of the world, and that people can easily work remotely, can work from anywhere. And of course, our today's meeting is an example of that. I mean, we are just in a hybrid model. Some of us are present here physically, and some are attending virtually, and everything goes smoothly. And here we could have also, I mean, one of the governor of Chirac is participating online. So I think that today we have much more opportunity to give to people from to give to people from rural areas, and to give more opportunities to them, and here we can, together with partnership of EU and with our strength from and our efforts from government, we can help our people in rural areas to really change their life. And of course, this program, Local Empowerment for Actors for Development, is a very important program launched by our very important partner, European Union, and ideally lies in our policy and strategy to help people in rural areas improve their life, get more choice of employment, and get more choice on their faith, I would say, not to be engaged only in agriculture, but also in different types of businesses. And here, of course, Ministry of Economy will do its best to help succeed this program. And I personally commit to do everything for the best success of this program. So thank you, everyone, and I look forward for seeing the change and participating in this change. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Our next high-level guest to speak is First Deputy Minister of Territorial Administration and Infrastructure, Mr. Vace Terterian. Please.
Շնորհակալություն, բարև ձեզ։ Տիկին Դեսպան, տիկին Ստոյկոսկա, մեծարգո պարոն նախարար, մարզպետներ, գործընկերներ։
Good morning, Your Excellency, Mr. Stoykoska, honorable governors, dear partners, colleagues. I'm also glad to welcome you to the launch of one of our important programs, which is LEAD. This is a multi-annual and rather comprehensive efforts product. It's the product of many years of methodical, consistent work we have done with the EU for implementing the proportionate regional development concept in the development process of our country. It's quite symbolic that the launch of this project overlaps with the formal start of SEPA, our Comprehensive Enhanced Partnership Agreement with the EU. We should be able to make maximal use and effective use of the possibilities availed to us under this program. As the Minister highlighted, the main objective of this program will be improvement of quality of life, improvement of people's prosperity, especially in the rural regions, and that's the foundation, that's the basis why we've chosen, together with the EU, the three northernmost regions of Armenia, Tavush, Chirac, and Lori, with a view to bring in efforts and resources together and making them more targeted and more efficient for achieving greater results in our northern regions. You know that the LEAD program is running in parallel to the It's running in parallel to the EU for Regions programs, rural tourism, SMEs, and other initiatives. Modern and innovative agriculture, and we are convinced that LEAD will allow to mobilize initiatives to create beneficiary groups, beneficiary teams, and develop the capacity so that these communities are able to participate in the program for their benefit, for the benefit of the program, and eventually for the benefits of the economic development of the regions. I would like to note with satisfaction that in the larger EU program, which is implemented in the 3 MARZs, we have brought in our traditional partners such as UNDP, ADA, and other partners who will be working under these components, which gives us confidence that the experience of these organizations in these projects will guarantee our success. These projects face a lot of challenges, and we hope to be able to implement them. It's important also that we cover the migration component, which is an important component of this program, because we have taken note of the problem. The problem is that for those people who, due to different reasons, due to internal migration, the pandemic, and unfortunately also the well-known events that happened at the end of the year, we're in a situation in which people have to start organizing their life from a new starting point, and we need to carry out many projects to support them and to be by their side. I once again, on behalf of our ministry, would like to assure you that with our partners in the Ministry of Economy, of course, with the regional governors, the MARZBETs, who are the key actors, we will be utmost helpful to this program. And I want to assure you that together with the EU for Regions larger program, we will simultaneously achieve some results. And in 3 years, the results in the 3 regions and the capacity built will be reported and built upon. These capacities will be later used for other activities in other platforms. Thank you.
Mr. Deputy Minister. Dear Minister, Deputy Minister, you are welcome to stay and join us for the remainder of the presentations. Of course, we understand if you have more pressing issues to attend to. So you can join us either from the room, take your seat there, or go about your business while we continue the presentations. Okay, very good. In that case, dear guests, we will continue with the remainder of the project. We have still a lot of ground to cover. As you probably know, the overall LEAD program is divided into 3 separate projects that are implemented in harmony with each other. One is implemented in Chirac, called EU for Chirac, implemented by the Austrian Development Agency. And we are very happy to be joined by the director of the Austrian Development Agency, Mr. Ledolter. I hope he is there at this point.
Yes, he is.
There he is. I saw you already. Very good. Good morning, Mr. Ledolter. It's good to see you again. Please, sir, the floor is yours for your introduction.
Marie-Louise, good morning, Madam Ambassador Victorine, Your Excellency, Minister Kerobian and Deputy Minister Tertziarian, dear ladies and gentlemen. To this day, it's been almost 8 years that I first had the privilege of visiting Armenia, and I was awed not only by the beauty of the country, but perhaps even more so by its hospitality, its generosity, and the amazing food. And whenever I think of Armenia, and I do that quite often, I look at my bottle of Ararat brandy, which dearly reminds me of my hopefully upcoming visit to Armenia very, very soon. So I suppose nobody in this virtual room craves a visit to Armenia more than I do. That being said, it is both an honor and a pleasure to join the launch of the EU LEAD program, not least because it is with the support of this program that we will introduce the EU leader approach in Armenia. Most of you might know that LEADER has a long tradition in EU member states, including Austria. It intends to bring together rural people, businesses, local authorities, and civil organizations alike to jointly work on the development of their respective rural area. It follows the idea of subsidiarity in that local people know best what the needs and development priorities for the area are. The EU-funded Lead for Chirac project is, as you rightly said, implemented and co-financed by the Austrian Development Agency, and it is our second largest joint project beside the Green Agriculture project with the European Union in Armenia. Ladies and gentlemen, the Armenian-Austrian friendship and partnership has a long and rich history, and our engagement in Armenia dates back to 1988, when Austria provided humanitarian aid after the devastating earthquake in the Chirac region. Since 2011, Armenia has been one of Austria's priority countries for development cooperation, and Austria genuinely considers Armenia a long-term partner, and in order to further strengthen that partnership, we intend to open a fully fledged coordination office in Yerevan in the upcoming months. As most of you know, our main strategic focus is the agricultural sector. The predominant economic sector in many Armenian rural areas, and having a multi-functional dimension for the population. In this project, we specifically emphasize on putting more empowerment to rural women, to the youth, to disabled persons and minorities. The LEAD approach offers equal opportunities to all rural people so as to become involved in local development and perhaps even more importantly, the decision-making progresses. I think Austria is a good example of a or the successful implementation of the LEAD approach by promoting the local economy and by introducing new green technologies so as to improve the environment, fostering the cooperation between agriculture and tourism, an area which Armenia has so much potential in, local governments and civil society organizations, and of course, rural people. As you might know, and as you might have crossed, a famous Austrian psychiatrist and psychotherapist, Erwin Ringel, kindly allow me to quote some of his words in today's opening events. Working against each other or just beside each other does not move us forward. Working together is the only way which brings us ahead. In this sense, I wish you, the LEAD program, and all the people involved a successful cooperation rewarding results benefiting the well-being of the Armenian people. Shnorakolution, I look forward to visiting you and seeing you all in person, hopefully in the near future. Thank you very much. Merci.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ledolter. We have warm memories of your last visits to Armenia, so we hope you can make it over here soon again. Now I'm pleased to welcome Mrs. Brigitta Milmauer to the stand to introduce the EU for Chirac project in more details. Brigitte?
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming to this event. Also, I would like to welcome everybody who joins us today online. So, as Karel has already introduced myself, I'm Brigitte Mehlmauer. I'm the team leader for one of the LEAD projects. I'm responsible for the management of the project in Chirac region. And I would like to give you some outlook what we are doing in Chirac. Also, I would like to say that the approach we are taking, either in Chirac or Lori and Tavush, so in these three regions, to introduce the leader approach is very similar. We will have a very intense coordination and cooperation with our colleagues from UNDP and FAO implementing the leader approach, the LEAD projects in Lori and Tavush. So, please, next slide. Thank you. So some key data, very briefly on the LEAD for Chirac project. So we have started actually the operational work in January 21. We have established our project office in Gyumri, in the Gyumri Technology Center. We will be there for the next 4 years to implement the project. So we have a budget volume of about 4.5 million euros. And the project is financed by the European Union with co-financing from the Austrian government, from the Austrian Development Corporation. Please, next slide. So what is the objective of our project? Basically, we are working with communities. So our targets are the communities, building partnerships between the different stakeholders in the communities. These are the local authorities, this is the private sector, these are the rural people, the rural women, minorities. And in this partnership, we are fostering community development. We want to promote a sustainable development and also an environmental friendly development, and to be inclusive, which is meaning to involve especially minorities, women, young people, disabled people. And altogether, this community-driven approach is this leader approach. In the next presentation, you will get more information, more technical details on this leader methodology. Please, next slide. So what are our key aspects? So we want to build on the resources in the rural areas, on the uniqueness of the Chirac region, on its people's uniqueness and on the rural areas, on the landscape, on the nature of Chirac region. Because the people there are special, the needs are special there. So we need specific customized development priorities. We need specific funds, customized funds to implement projects, to foster initiatives and to promote this cooperation. And what we also want to achieve is a decentralized management of socioeconomic development. Because this brings us back also to the principle of the European Union, this subsidiarity principle, which means the decision-making, designing priorities should be done on the most lowest level. As far as a community is concerned, local people, local authorities, and the business sector, civil society organizations should come together and work on their development directions. Another important aspect is to foster the networking. We want to establish a strong network for information exchange, for training, for capacity building within the region of Chirac, but also with other regions in Armenia. Because the aim at the end of this process is also to have a system, a framework, a governance structure for this approach, which can be rolled out in whole Armenia in other regions besides the 3 ones which are targeted now. Please, next slide. So, and in order to manage, to steer, to bring together, to initiate this community-based development approach, we will form so-called local action groups. Basically, this is a kind of an operational unit bringing together the different partners from the public sector, private sector, individuals, social enterprises, tourism, culture, nature organizations, environmental organizations. And this local action group, which is marked here in red, is a kind of a nucleus to promote and to go ahead with this approach, bringing people together, designing projects, supporting the development of project applications, because what we also have in our project is a grant scheme support, because we are able then, when we have a designed strategy, designed and agreed priority directions, to implement and support local projects. Small projects which can have different backgrounds, for example, local infrastructure, renovation of kindergartens, start-up businesses, small ones, small workshops, tourism, so different types. But the communities basically decide in which direction the project should be developed. Next slide, please. So what are the steps? So we have started in January. Now we are in the process to define, to reach out to the local authorities, to the NGOs, to form these local action groups. Which municipalities will work together, consolidated with non-consolidated communities. Then we will have a strong and intensive period for awareness raising, to mobilize the people, that they really can join the process. Because to activate people needs also some time, because they have to understand their role and also to empower them to contribute in the decision-making, in the identification of needs. And this is, of course, for some of the partners very easy because they are used to this process, but for individuals, it's more complicated. Then to form this nucleus, as I said, this local action group, to work on a strategy, identifying and implementing projects, and then also do a good monitoring and evaluation for lessons learned, for overseeing and overviewing the progress of the project and implementation of the strategy. What are the results? We would like to have 5,000 people involved, more of them in this process. We want to finance 75 projects, and we want to create jobs in the region, and we want to establish 2 to maximum 4 of these local action groups. Please, next slide. So regarding the timing, just very briefly, so we are now in this first period in 2021, where we are working on a regional study baseline assessment, where we are forming the LACs, and where we do a lot of capacity development and training for the local people, where we are agreeing with them to form the partnerships also across municipality borders. So administrative borders don't hinder, are not a hindrance to form these local action groups. And we are going ahead with the preparation for the grant scheme support, and which of course is also related to strong capacity building activities, and also to give training how to prepare applications, and also to manage then the implementation of the project. In 24, our project is going to be closed, and I hope we will have, we can show that we have achieved our targets, and we hope that with this project, we can really emphasize and foster the cooperation and bring in a new approach of local policy making and implementing and creating of new projects for the benefit of the people in Chirac. So next slide, please. As we are still at the beginning of our project, I just want to give you also the address of the project. Everybody is welcomed. We have already a coffee machine there. So we are somehow functional, or basically we are working there. We are not yet fully equipped, but everybody is welcomed. We are in the middle of the region. And of course, and this is also an announcement to the participants of today's meeting from Chirac region. In the coming weeks, we will reach out to you, and everybody is welcomed anytime to visit us in our project. Snoha Kalutzion.
Thank you very much, Brigitta. The next implementing partner, actually an implementing partner team, consists of UNDP and FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. And I'm very pleased to ask Mrs. Mihaela Stoikowska to join me here for her introductory remarks. Yes, please.
Good morning, everyone. Ambassador Victorine, I'm sure you're still with us. Minister Kerobian, Deputy Minister Terterian, dear governors, colleagues from Armenia, and I see all around Europe and probably the world. We have about 131 participants, I see. So it's really a great pleasure to be part of this event. First of all, because of the partnership element. This is what I always like to emphasize first and foremost, and I think colleagues that spoke before also emphasize that somehow, is that all of us being together in this endeavor is already a good sign under the leadership of the national authorities and our national counterparts. Transformation can be only achieved through partnerships, as the colleagues from ADA mentioned. And this is definitely something that we believe, and we feel very lucky to be part of that, this opportunity to work together with all of you, particularly with the regional and local authorities. As many of you know, UNDP has been present in local governance and regional development for many, many years. We have really explored and worked together under the leadership of our national counterparts on many participatory approach to advancing them and finding the best ways for a tailor-made and really locally driven development. In that sense, we are strong believers of that real development can happen only through bottom-up. I mean, obviously strong and relevant policies, but strong bottom-up approach. And although this approach sometimes takes a little bit more time and it's process-oriented, it's definitely important contribution towards ensuring balanced regional development. And I would say also in this particular context, sustainable recovery of Armenia as a socioeconomic in its socioeconomic context overall. So as Karel mentioned, we are two agencies that are implementing this component of the project. It's a great pleasure to work with colleagues from FAO. And we are looking at empowering local population, establishment of local active groups, elaboration of regional development models, establishment of new ventures and startups, and encouraging women and young people to become engaged and empowered through our project. And if as we were listening the ADA presentation, we can see that there is the same narrative that goes across components, with the difference that UNDP and FAO are focusing on Tavush and Lori, while ADA is focusing on Chirac. So what is very important, obviously we could hear from the previous presentation as well, is to have those viable models for local action groups. and make them sustainable. And I think that's one of the most interesting parts and probably the biggest challenges. Will be very interesting how we join our forces and help that sustainability to happen. And this is very much linked also to establishing innovative financial models and strengthening public-private partnerships involving entrepreneurs, civil society, local administration. I think, Minister, you already gave a hint with your speech that you came from the private sector and you really felt the impact, but also I'm sure there are a lot of ideas who also come from the private sector of how that impact can be tackled, so to speak. So I will leave it up to my colleague who will present the project for more details. I would just like to thank the European Union also for the understanding and for working with us on adapting certain parts of the project to be COVID responsive and responsive to the crisis in and around Nagorno-Karabakh. So we also already managed to somehow benefit from this project in that regard as well. And I think it's very timely from perspective of overall socioeconomic recovery, but particularly in context of the ongoing process of decentralization as a huge contributor to equitable regional development. Again, I will wrap up just by saying that we are all very excited in UNDP to be working with this regional partners. We have had the pleasure to work before, as I said, a lot of innovative ideas. I know we will be very much driven by demand. And on that note, I would just like to wrap up by saying that this is one of those projects that will really help us to overcome a kind of a standard development trap where we often assume solutions. And I think the LEAD and the local action groups are exactly the instrument that will help us to take the step back and let the local people, the local communities who know their problems, but also the solutions to their problems the best. So colleagues, thank you for sharing these moments with us and looking forward to, in the next few years, contribute to overall development and to a success of this project.
Thank you very much for your wise words. Mr. Raymond Jelle is the regional representative of FAO, and he will be joining us now online for his welcoming remarks. Mr. Jelle, you're with us.
Thank you very much, Carol, for this distinguished Minister Kerobian, distinguished Deputy Minister Terterian, distinguished Ambassador Victorine, particularly also very much welcome to the governors Haratunian, Kobanian, and Kakatarian. Ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, it's really a pleasure for me to participate in this important kickoff event, and not just from the regional perspective, but of course as FAO representative in Armenia, I'm very sad that in fact I cannot be physically present. And Managing Director Ledotis said he's probably the one in the room who is the most daring for being in Armenia. I think I can definitely join him because I'm also having always very good memories to be in the country. And I hope we are overcoming this pandemic situation really very, very soon so that we can enjoy the full beauty of the country, the full beauty also of the rural areas. We are really very glad to be the partner in this program. I mean, Michaela was just telling with UNDP, where I would say we are the junior partner, but not necessarily only junior when it comes also to the technical part, because the FAO, with its vast, let's say, agriculture, rural development knowledge, we definitely want to make also our contribution to this project, but of course the wider collaboration with the Austrian Development Agency and ICMPD is, I think, a very good reflection how a bottom-up approach of such a project needs to be really taken up with the varying experience and capacities which we have as different agencies. And I'm really looking forward in this case to do this implementation really in a joint way. And like Michaela was already saying, we have really a common narrative in order to address this. The pandemic and the armed conflict really hit Armenia hard in 2020, and the vulnerable population is really particularly affected by these two major issues. This, I think, is coming on top of poverty in rural areas. And from an FAO point of view, the issue of poverty and food insecurity are really very closely related, and we are committed to support Armenia to overcome both. Food security means not only access to food, this is not necessarily the issue, but it means, of course, also utilization to ensure a healthy diet for all, and that we are, in this case, also leaving no one behind. So particularly the marshes of Chirac, Tavush, and Lori are key marshes where I think we need to address this. What I would also like to remind, or let's say highlight then again, we have only 10 years ahead to achieve, or not even 10 years ahead, to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. And we really need to act now. And I think the bottom-up approach, acting at the local level, this is really where we are going to bring the development support in order to address poverty, food security, and in order to really support the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals of eradicating poverty and really also zero hunger. And the food systems approach, which is something which FAO is very much advocating for, is a key element in order to be able to address that. It looks at production, processing, but of course also the enabling environment to create really livelihoods and decent jobs. And agriculture is still one of the key activities to ensure livelihoods in rural Armenia. And it is really confronted with the challenges of climate change, loss of biodiversity, drought, desertification, and several issues more. But at the same time, I think it's again something which we always need to stress. Agriculture and the food systems approach offers a great opportunity to develop the rural areas. The pandemic, more than anything else, has made it obvious how important it is to have a strong food value chain, resilience against such shocks, and key issues of such a strong value chain is a strong, sustainable local production. And I think there is the potential in the rural areas, and in particular also in these marshes in Armenia. It requires to address, of course, disaster risk reduction, animal health issues, etc. But one additional point which I would also like to mention is, and it has been already put up, innovation, technology, and digitalization is also something which we will need to bring to the rural areas. We can only create this bottom-up development nucleus, which the LEAD concept is providing a great opportunity if we are making jobs attractive for the youth and are able to keep them in the rural areas, fighting against the aging population trend. Green businesses are a great opportunity. Ada has been already emphasizing this, but we certainly also need to support the mitigation and the adaptation to climate change. So, as of course, this all requires a legal framework, giving access to the land for the farmers in rural areas, and the opportunity to grow is quite important. We just discussed 2 days ago with Minister Kerobian the land code, land consolidation, and land banking opportunities in Armenia, which are really quite important. So, ladies and gentlemen, looking ahead now in terms of the implementation, together with UNDP, we are really initiating a number of activities in the targeted regions where really mitigating the negative effect of the pandemic and supporting potential local action group members is quite important. The FAO approach builds on extensive experience in the field, and the field in Armenia, we have been working in various areas relevant and important for this kind of activity. And we will engage not just the team on the ground, FAO with its vast technical capacities in the different locations, also headquarters, we will make them available for the activities of the project. And Vadan Basegyan, the program manager, and also the newly recruited project manager, Hasmik, they will outline some of these details. So I'm really concluding to be convinced that this project has all the prerequisites for becoming an exemplary project that will ultimately fit into the rural and the agriculture state policies of Armenia. And I'm really looking forward to collaborate with all of you. And I'm looking really forward to successful results in quite short of the time. Thank you very much. Back to you, Karen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yele, for being with us today and for your encouraging words. The details of the UNDP project will now be introduced by its project manager, Mr. Armen Tiraturian. Armen, if I may ask you.
Thank you, Carl. Ambassador Victorin, Mr. Deputy Minister, honorable guests, guests who have joined us over a Zoom conference. I'm happy to welcome you to this presentation as well to talk about our joint effort with FAO on the project that will be implemented in Lori and Tavush regions. Very briefly, key facts about the project. We officially started the project late last year, which will be around a 4-year-long project for us, funded by the European Union, and our total overall budget is around 6.6 million euros. As you see from the map, the implementation area is Lori and Tavush regions together. Next slide, please. Overall, the project goal of this component is to encourage the local people in Tavush and Lori to have inclusive, resilient, and sustainable local development, for designing territorial development models to involve citizens in setting development agenda and decision-making and implementation. Basically, we will be trying to apply the leader methodology into building trust and self-confidence, to develop and train entrepreneurial skills with the local people, and also try to build a community cohesion or group cohesion and in the communities, within the communities, and between the regions as well. Next slide, please. For implementation of this part of the program, we have a couple of key approaches, or I would say key values that we are going to follow. You can see on the slide, but I can maybe dwell on some of them in more details. First of all, the methodology itself, the leader methodology, requires to be area-based, territory-based. And for that reason, this approach that we're going to imply is to focus on small, homogeneous, socially cohesive territory. Some territory that is characterized or that has common geographical or common traditions, common geography, shared local identity, sense of belonging or community needs and expectations. We will not be necessarily limited by geographic borders or administrative borders. We will try to bring people, local people together in all those areas that share something in common with them. Of course, the methodology does look into rural community development. However, in some cases, we'll be also be able to include small towns and other people in the areas. We will very strongly focus on local partnerships, building partnerships between public, private, and civil society players. We will try to make sure that the local action groups, the so-called LAGs, will be represented. All these people will be represented in the LAGs more or less equally. And they will be working also with the local administration and the regional administration as well to make sure that their work is being required and necessary for the regions. Bottom-up approach, as we mentioned earlier, would be helping our local participants to take part in decision-making process and it'll become something like a participatory democracy exercise for them, because for many, many communities, it will be important to get involved in defining their territorial strategies, defining their own goals, and also taking their own responsibilities how to reach their goals. Innovation will be some of our new approaches for this, to make sure that the community-led local development leader approach will bring in new ways of completing the tasks, basically. And we will be looking into various methods of innovative approaches, starting from probably results-based payments, or something that the communities will be piloting and testing to become more financially sustainable, and also try new innovative approaches in their implementation. One thing is very critical for our project, is, as well as with all our other leader projects, is that we will be building and training local capacity for local management. All our LEADs and all our activities will be at some point managed locally by the local people for the local people. And that's why a lot of training and capacity building will be dedicated for that. Networking and cooperation, of course, inside the regions, between the regions, in the country, and also international will be our focus. Next slide, please. Okay, the objectives you can see on your slide. Basically, we will have three main objectives: to mobilize, capacitate, incentivize local actors so that they will become more aware of their neighbors, their common interests, and whatever they share in common. And we will help them to write and draft their local development strategies. Then we will build supporting infrastructure to prioritize, implement, and sustain local growth, locally grown initiatives, which will also include some part of grant initiatives to fund small local projects to start the cooperation. And for our third component, we will have the building capacity of the relevant ministers and partners to make sure that all the recommendations and all the activities that we have built will become long-lasting and may become replicable for the rest of the country as well. Next slide, please. Considering the events in the country, we have also managed to make little deviation, or I would say addition to the project, to include alongside with the implementation, implementing the methodology, we will be partially and in parallel creating some local jobs. Will help the communities to create green energy solutions for energy saving activities, and also we will build community cohesion and psychosocial support in all those communities that have suffered from COVID-19 crisis, and also from the recent events in Nagorno-Karabakh, who have been displaced to this our target regions. Next slide, please. Our main steps and targets. I will go through these steps, and maybe I'll leave the floor for our partners to continue. Basically, we will be going to first define the territories of the local action groups. We're starting going to our the potential beneficiaries' houses and talking to them and understanding their common interests. Then helping them to build and develop and how to design their local development strategies. Formalizing the LEADs, signing partnership agreements, making sure that these people are already identified with one type of local action group. Overall, the whole program, we will be empowering, capacitating, and networking so that these people have enough skills, enough capacity, enough contacts to be effective, productive, and successful in their work. I mentioned also about the support of the small grant programs, which will help the local economies to kickstart some of their initiatives, and also build entrepreneur connections to make sure that the local production is produced, is known, and they will be going out of the market. And of course, we'll be proposing improvements in national administrative policy frameworks, which also includes a component to help the Armenian government to build a database of the development assistance in Armenia, which will be helping with building this network as well. Overall, for the whole duration of the project, we plan to have up to 5 local action groups formulated in 2 Marses combined, with over 1,000 local people mobilized and participating in that. Around 160 businesses supported and around 150 local initiatives that will be funded through the grants system. If we go to the next slide, we will finish my part of the presentation. We will be our main office and the project team is located in Yerevan in UN House. However, we will have local presence in Lori and Tavush regions through our research and development centers, and we will be in touch with our local partners through these places as well as directly through our colleagues in Yerevan. Thank you. Probably I'll leave the floor for our colleagues.
Good afternoon, Your Excellency Andere Victorin, Deputy Minister, honorable guests and colleagues. My name is Hasmik Kocharian. I recently joined FAO Welcoming Family in Armenia as a project manager, and it's my pleasure to introduce what FAO will be focused on in the framework of the project. May I kindly ask you please to put the presentation on? Thank you. Right, so FAO activities are very much driven from the FAO vision, which is a world free from hunger and malnutrition, where food and agriculture contribute to improving the living standards of all, especially the poorest, in an economically, socially, and environmentally sustainable manner, and as well as very much in line with FAO Armenia country strategy of supporting and promoting agricultural production and food security. So FAO will be very much involved in a close partnership and synergy with UNDP in following activities. We'll be working on emergency response related to COVID-19. We'll be helping formation of local active groups and helping the formed groups to shape their local development strategy, which is multi-sectorial, of course, and we'll be paying particular attention to agricultural sector. Once the groups are formed and work with local population is done, we'll be working on capacity development of local actors and local population. We'll be working with existing agro producers, forming associations and supporting their horizontal and vertical integration. And as a logical summary of all our activities, we will be generating lessons learned and good practices and transforming them into policy development and policy discourse. Next slide, please. So as for the emergency response related to COVID, it is well known that globally COVID affected agri-food producers and operators. Trade, logistics, access to market, those are a big burden for those who are involved in this value chain. So for us to better understand how we can provide more targeted assistance to the population affected by COVID in those two regions, an assessment will be initiated. And based on the assessment results, the beneficiaries will be identified to provide non-cash assistance in form of machinery and other agricultural inputs. The most vulnerable beneficiaries will be benefiting from fodder and livestock inputs. Next slide, please. Talking about designing needs-driven local development strategy, FAO will be actively involved in forming local active groups, ensuring female, youth, and people with disabilities and minorities active participation and engagement. Once the groups are formed, we'll be helping those active groups in analyzing the agricultural sector of their territories. What are the potentials, what are the niche products, and what are the new value chains or access to market opportunities existing to be integrated in their territory development planning. We will be also working with LAGs for the community mobilization and raising awareness among the population about the purpose of the LEAD program and the benefit of it for the local people. We'll be working with awareness raising events and definitely as FAO within its mandate will be putting vigorous efforts through the technical expertise, internal, external, on the development of agriculture section of the strategy. Next slide, please. Once again, to reiterate, and when the LAGs will be formed and the beneficiaries or groups or will be identified, those who are interested in engaging in agricultural activities, they will be supported with enhancing life skills and technical capacities. They will be supported by developing innovative agricultural projects and business planning. And once the successful candidates are identified, more needs-based capacity building will be provided. Definitely there will be a number of events, study tours, exchange exposures, and internal and external events, conferences, to support the LAGs in better understanding and shaping their agriculture strategies. We will be also working with existing farmers and agro producers, building associations of agro producers and helping them to develop their strategies in the way so they have better negotiation power in their territories and beyond, and as well as supporting them developing vital business plans that would help them to minimize the cost and increase the revenues. At the same time, we'll be helping LAGs and associations with external engagement, working with business partners within their territories and beyond, as well as engaging with international organizations that are interested in investing in agricultural sector. Next slide, please. As I mentioned before, as a summary, logical summary of all our activities, lessons learned and good practices will be documented thoroughly, and a policy discourse will be initiated to discuss how LEAD approach, particularly in agriculture sector, can be better integrated in the ongoing policies and strategies of the government. We will be working closely with the Ministry of Economy, administrative staff, to understand better what are the advantages of a LEAD approach and how it can be introduced in the ongoing policies. And definitely, we are looking forward to inject policy changes into the agriculture policy of the Armenia that FAO played a significant role in developing. I'm talking about the agriculture policy for 2020 to 2030. That's it from our side. Thank you, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Hasmik. And again, welcome to the team. We're happy to have you as a partner. Now for the third implementing partner organization, it is my own, the International Center for Migration Policy Development. And I'm very pleased to be joined by my dear colleague and boss, Mr. Martijn Pluim, Director of Migration Dialogues and Cooperation, who's joining us from Vienna, who's also been here many times. And I know he's also very, very eager to join us here live again. But for now, Mr. Pluim, you're online. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Carl. And I would like to thank everyone for the invitation to speak during this event. As Carl said, on behalf of the International Center for Migration Policy Development, Carl is our head of office in Armenia and, as you see, also a moderator. I will join, indeed, as Carl said, our previous speakers in expressing my great regret to not be in person in Armenia. I have fond memories over the last years that I have been there, and I look forward to see all friends and colleagues soon in person. But at least we can join virtually, and most importantly, I'm glad that despite the crisis, we can, together with our friends from UNDP, FAO, ADA, and of course the EU delegation, commence this project with our Armenian partners. The cooperation between ICMPD and the Republic of Armenia has been flourishing since already the early 2000s. Since then, the Armenian migration authorities have been taking part in various regional migration dialogues supported by ICMPD, in particular the Budapest and the Prague processes. And since then, our bilateral cooperation has developed progressively, to such an extent that today we are implementing quite a number of projects funded by the EU and by several of its member states, working both from our offices in Vienna and in Yerevan on all areas of migration. ICMPD always tries to be at the forefront of developing cutting-edge expertise on migration and taking an evidence-based policy and capacity development approach. And this approach also includes, and this was emphasized by numerous speakers, that we always work in close partnerships with national counterparts, as well as with international friends and partners. It is also with this approach that we, for example, work with the Armenian Migration Service and the European Return and Reintegration Network, so-called ERIN, to foster government-to-government cooperation on the delivery of post-arrival assistance and to support social and economic reintegration of Armenian nationals who return from EU member states. We also work closely with the Armenian government to strengthen Armenia's migration management capacities, as well as in the context of reception and accommodation of asylum seekers via the construction of a new temporary accommodation center. Dear colleagues, for more than 15 years now, ICMPD has been a leading partner on diaspora affairs. Even some 15% of our portfolio, spanning all our regions, has a diaspora angle. And we take an inclusive ecosystem approach to diaspora. This means that we engage with a myriad of actors to advance diaspora matters on different complementary fronts. This is important because we need to acknowledge the complexities and the immense diversity of the profiles, the form of engagement, and the aspirations of all the different actors involved. Diasporas are very different from each other. And based upon this long experience, ICMPD was invited in 2019 to lead the EU Global Diaspora Facility, the so-called EU DIF. The EU DIF is the first EU-funded project to take a global approach to catalyze diaspora development cooperation. And through this facility, we built a global knowledge hub on diaspora, we connect actors, and we foster peer learning. A large global forum on diaspora is scheduled in June this year. The facility that we have within this program also allows us to pioneer approaches to enhance capacities of diaspora organizations in Europe and in their homeland governments through targeted capacity development interventions. And we facilitate the assignment of diaspora professionals to advance development work in their country of heritage. Ladies and gentlemen, the challenges faced globally in 2020 showed the important contributions migrants play to societies, both in the countries of destination and origin. This also inspired a raft of diaspora-led actions and invigorated government interest in engaging the diasporas. The project we are launching today is a business support program targeting migrant entrepreneurs and includes outreach to the Armenian diaspora to support local entrepreneurship. Its inception and implementation are another example of the close cooperation we enjoy with the Armenian government in general and the Migration Service in particular. And I will now hand over to my colleague Carl, who will present the project to you in more details. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Plan. I will indeed now introduce very briefly the ICMPD project, which is called EU for Increasing Migrants' Potential to Act for Development of Armenia. EU for Impact, in short. Colleagues, if you could put the slides on. Direct in presentation, Gantrim. Switch direct. There we go. New slide, Gantrim. Next slide. Yes, okay. This is good. So some key data. Irbuni Plaza, you know where to find us. We cannot hide anymore. 4 years like our colleagues. We are a project of 3.5 million, and I've highlighted the grant budget of 1.2 million euro. I will elaborate a little bit more what that is for. but for the figure to be there, obviously financed by the European Union. Next slide, please. Right, the overall objective, we elaborated in close coordination, collaboration with the government, especially the migration service, is to contribute to the empowerment of migrants in general. Obviously an important social layer, population segment in Armenia and for Armenia. So we would like them, migrants, returnees and their family members, to invest in Armenia, to bring some of the savings that they have abroad back to Armenia. I'll elaborate a little bit. Many people talk about remittances as a saving grace and a way to attract foreign investments from migrants. Remittances are sent and usually immediately spent and don't really impact the development level very much. At the same time, migrants often save as well when they're abroad for a project, a program, their own personal interest. And this is the resource that we would like to tap into. And what we will do is based on a rather successful example in Moldova, where the government, again, assisted by the European Union and other donors, was able to attract dozens of millions, tens of millions of dollars in foreign investment by migrants, by offering such a program called PARE 1+1. It's basically matching an own investment with a grant and possibly a loan. Next slide, please. So here are the project components. One, obviously important, awareness raising. People need to know what we can do for them. Business training and business plan drafting. The third one is the actual financing in the form, as I said, of grants to match an own contribution, as well as linking beneficiaries to low interest loans. Monitoring, impact evaluation is of course important. I should also mention here the need to mentor beneficiaries and coach them for at least a year before they can, with a reasonable degree of certainty, set off by themselves. And then a fifth component that I will elaborate slightly in one of the next slides is on research analysis and innovative investment instruments for more traditional diaspora members. Next slide, please. Right, the beneficiaries. I already mentioned this, returnees, labor migrant, current labor migrants, a minimum of 1 year abroad in the last 3 years. There is no geographic limitation as to where. You can see we deliberately cast a very wide net because we want this program to work for as many people as possible. That's also why we include their family members. So dare I say that most of Armenia actually will be able to benefit from this program, because I think most people in Armenia have either been a migrant or they know somebody or a second line family member of somebody in migration. Next slide, please. So we support both startups and existing businesses, not older than 3 years. In this, we follow the definition of a startup that the government uses. And unlike our colleagues at UNDP, FAO, and the Austrian Development Agency, they can be located in any Mars of Armenia, any province. So we don't have the limitation to the 3 northern provinces only. They have to be owned or co-owned by a beneficiary as described above. Please, next slide. Right, so how does it look in practice? I hope the letters are not too small, the font, but the first step on the bottom is you apply to the project. Business training is mandatory. Drafting business plans is the next step once the training is passed successfully. Then we can provide this matching grant from 2,000 to 10,000 euros, matching the similar level of own investment. That is to say, the migrant startup entrepreneur can invest 30,000 that would be good, 30,000 euros. We can still only match a maximum of 10,000 euros. In a further step, we will try to link beneficiaries as well to loan funding mechanisms. There are several schemes around in Armenia, including by the government, that provide low interest loans to business startups. And we will be cooperating with as many of these loan providers as possible to link them to our migrant investors and give them the additional financial boost they may need by giving them access to this low interest loan. Sixth step, obviously, the actual creation of a business, including registration, mentoring, and coaching, as I said. Next slide, please. This is a slide that goes a little bit deeper into the fifth component of the project, and that's our intention to design an innovative diaspora investment instrument. One of the things we're already piloting now, we're in the process of starting this up, of concluding the contract for a crowdfunding platform, an equity-based crowdfunding platform whereby Armenian diaspora representatives can actually take a stake in an Armenian business startup, thereby also creating this important link with the diaspora. The diaspora, who will also, in our vision, play a role in this project by providing expertise and professional knowledge through thematic fora that we want to create under the project. Next slide, please. The expected results in one glance. So we want to train at least 500 beneficiaries on business management. From those 500, we expect to have 150 businesses actually benefiting from investment from our side, receive the matching grants, so 150. And then I mentioned already the links that we want to create with the diaspora entrepreneurs, so local migrant entrepreneurs with diaspora, more established and more experienced diaspora entrepreneurs abroad. That's it from my project. I am now pleased, slight delay, to move to the next segment of our agenda, and that's to hear from the regional governors of the three northern provinces to get the local perspective on this, on the LEAD program and the impact they anticipate from it. So it's my pleasure to firstly introduce Mr. Hovhannes Harutyunyan, Governor of Shirak province, who I believe is joining us online. Mr. Harutyunyan, please, the floor is yours.
Dear Ms. Ambassador, members of the government, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome all the participants of this very important discussion. As governor of Shirak, when I read the description of the project and the objectives of the project, I would like to say that we are very, very interested, because the purpose of this project is to contribute to local development. When talking about Shirak province or Mars, I have to say that the 2017-2025 development strategy includes priorities such as tourism, IT, SME development, and obviously agriculture. Many of you can confirm that Shirak has serious potential in these areas. Our north is a treasure for winter and extreme tourism. Gyumri has an opportunity to become a very important tourism center. IT is one of the success stories for us, and SME development will contribute to economic activity in the region. As for agriculture, Iraq is an agricultural region, has been an agricultural region traditionally. So once again, I welcome all the participants of LEAD program, and I assure you of our commitment to this project. We are with you because for us, the development of Shirak Mars is very important, and the proper use of resources and commercialization of these resources is very important.
Thank you, Mr. Harutyunyan. I would like to... Hello? This woman? Okay, thank you, Mr. Harutyunyan. I would like to ask Mr. Hayk Chobania, the governor of Tavush, for his brief comments. Please, Mr. Chobania.
Your Excellency, Mrs. Victorine, dear Deputy Minister, dear colleagues, I also would like to congratulate all of us on the launch of this new process, this new beginning. And I would like to tell you that essentially by launching a new program, we will continue our partnership with our traditional partners. We're very happy that we will be able not only to carry out a new program, but also to continue the programs that we started years ago. And in this, we will be supported and assisted by the successes and the failures and the lessons learned throughout this cooperation to further improve and make our work more efficient. I believe that this program has a number of key peculiarities and would like to highlight several of these aspects. One of them is the strategic approach and strategic capacity building and empowerment, which is one of our greatest gaps currently in regional government and especially in the local self-government system. Creating these power centers, I think there should at least be one in each sub-region of a Mars. The creation of these power centers can provide a new opportunity as a new platform for this strategic approach. We will create a new platform and we will develop this framework and this logic from the very beginning on. The second area, which is very characteristic and was mentioned in all the presentations, is innovation and technological change. And it's true that our country has ample opportunities for development. And we're making very little use of the problem. We will need to achieve a multiplier effect with all of the programs that have been started with the EU and will be still started in the future. Mr. Terterian spoke about that. We will achieve a multiplier effect and much greater results than we can currently even imagine. This is not just a statement, it is actually a principle of our work, and it's a principle that we will follow, because in the coming years, we will try every year to review what we are starting now, what we are articulating now, because the world is changing very rapidly, and I'm sure that these revisions and these reviews will give us new possibilities and new efficiency. The next important point that was mentioned here is migration development, or I like to call it demographic development. And we plan to do it under this program, among others. And I will repeat what I've said many times. The development pace that we plan to achieve is impossible without demographic change. On the other hand, we have a lot of potential for demographic improvements, primarily with the involvement of the Armenian diaspora. We have in recent years had much emigration from our region, and we need to really create a fertile ground for the return of thousands of families and creation of thousands of new businesses. And I would like to mention that this program is aimed at development of human resources, from starting locally, national, regional, local levels. We have to work on development of potential and capacity building. We need to identify the right resources, and we need to find leadership, leaders and leadership in this program who will stay beyond and be sustainable later on. Good luck to everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Chobanian, for your comments and speech. Now I'd like to give the floor to Marspeta Vlori, Mr. Aram Khachatryan, for his comments.
Thank you. Honorable Mrs. Ambassador, Honorable Mr. Minister, dear participants of the event, I would like to start off by thanking you for the invitation. It's very important for us that together with the EU and UNDP, we continue this cooperation, we implement this project. I believe that the project is very timely, given the living standards of the population of our region. It's also important that we highlight some of the success stories and best practices we have already achieved in the Lori Mars for sustainable and proportionate and equitable development. This program is peculiar in that it is based on a bottom-up approach of development. On the level of communities, it will create realistic and effective interventions aimed at specific sectors, such as agriculture, light industry, tourism, and other sectors in which strategies will be developed on the regional and sub-regional levels, given the differences between regions or sub-regions. As a result of implementing these projects, we expect that community staff will participate in the regional and local development programs. Young people will be engaged in the development and implementation of business projects. It will be a major incentive for prevention of emigration. By focusing on the less developed communities or the communities which lie near the border, we plan to create agri-processing and agro-production micro-enterprises, greenhouses, refrigerator farms, slaughterhouses. We will create informal groups I'm certain that the LEADER program will promote the engagement of a wide circle of local actors, local stakeholders, and thereby contribute to the equitable development of the communities. Thank you very much for the work you've done and for the work you plan to carry out later. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Governor. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce a staunch supporter and one of the, at least, mental founders of this project, Mr. Armen Khazarian, the head of the Migration Service of Armenia, with whom we have a close cooperation, especially in our component run by the International Center for Migration Policy Development. Mr. Khazarian, if you could join me.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for this introduction. I believe we all have already underlined the importance of the topic and the importance of the program. I would like to speak about its migration component and about its significance for us. Migration is often perceived only as a security challenge, or in the context of the security challenges, which is quite right, because migration is primarily a security challenge, and it's a security challenge for the Republic of Armenia as well. However, at the same time, all people often fail to see or overlook the ability of migration to contribute to social and economic development. We've tried to reconcile these two approaches also in the government's program by underlining that if you look at the migration section, you will notice that the emphasis there is that migration is primarily a security challenge for Armenia, and that it should be also used for social and economic development of the country. And it's hard to see a better and more practical example of how that can be done than the migration-related impact component in this program, which views the migrants as stakeholders and actors who are able to act and tries to help to identify their potential and to implement their potential. I think this will be a good example for us so that we can develop these programs and implement them in the future. You noticed our colleague mentioned the Moldovan example. In Moldova, after the end of project financing, state funding was provided for this. The state took over this toolkit and started to cooperate with the migrants, and we hope that this positive experience will be also implemented in Armenia at some point. And good luck, and I'm sure that we will have great results.
Thank you, Mr. Khazarian, for your speech as well. Dear colleagues, I want to remind that at the moment we have 120 participants following us online, and for this next block of the meeting, we will be talking about overview of leader methodology, success stories, lessons learned, practical experiences from the field. So for that reason, I would like to invite Ms. Marion Eckart to talk about the leader methodology, overview of the leader methodology. Ms. Eckart is the president of the European Leader Association for Rural Development, and she will be joining us from her home place. So,
hello, thank you for having me. It's a great pleasure. I wish I would have had the pleasure to visit Armenia, where I have never been before. But this is also nice, of course, not the same though. My name is Marion Eckart, and I am the president of ELARD, which is the European Leader Association for Rural Development. I am wondering if I'm supposed to share the screen myself, or is some, or how the Yeah, you are doing it for me. Thank you. Yes, I am the president of LEAD, and we are currently, next slide, please. 26 members. Next slide, please. Oh, yes, that one. Currently 26 members from 26 different countries, which means that we have approximately 2,200 local action groups affiliated with us. So it's a huge network from all over Europe, not only European Union. And maybe one day the Armenian network of local action groups will be able to join us. That would be very nice. Next slide, please. So why do we work with LEADER? What is the point? We have 3 reasons, what we like to call the added value of a LEADER. That is the reason why we're working with it. We have on one hand the improved governance, where we can build trust between levels, and we can work with the multi-level governance where we pursue goals from EU level down to local level that are pulling in the same directions. And that is one thing. We have also another thing that is the improved social capital. We learn a lot when we take decision down to the local level, and we also get a stronger network on the local level. And this we call the improved social capital, and it's one of the added value of LEADER. And in the end, actually, the LEADER approach added value is that we get enhanced result and impacts than when we would have had development strategies or development implementation through another methodology on local level. Because when we work with the LEADER methodology, it is the people who are supposed to handle the results after the project is finished that are initiating it, and this gives better results and impact. Next slide, please. There are several principles of LEADER. One is innovation. We need to work with something new. There is the area-based local development strategy that is taking place in homogeneous, socially and functionally cohesive territory, often characterized with common traditions, local identity, and a sense of belonging or common needs and expectations. Then there is the networking, of course, where we allow learning among people, organizations, and institutions at local, regional, national, and European level. We have also the bottom-up elaboration of the implementation of strategies, where local actors are the ones that design the strategy and choose the actions. Cooperation is an important principle as well, among different stakeholders, for instance, to share experiences and involve new knowledge. We also have the integrated and multi-sectoral actions, between economic, social, cultural, and environmental actions, for example. This is called the multi-sectoral approach. And then, of course, we have the most important, I think, but all of the 7 ones are important, the local action group. We have this local public-private partnership where LAGs are balanced grouped involving public, civil, and private sector. And those can together mobilize available skills and resources. Next slide, please. And to picture this, there is, you can see maybe the top-down strategy from, in our case, in the European Union, we have European Union goals, the EU 2020. Then we have also the national strategies from each member state country or aspiring memberships, the goals that they are pursuing. And then we have from the bottom, the local needs and possibilities, and where they can meet those 2 things, we have the local strategy in between. And then you can see that like the blue field is interesting both top down and bottom up, so we can have it in the strategy. So that is what the integrated strategy is about. Next slide, please. Then we have the animation, and this means that the leader is not only about financing projects, it is about the process to go there and the whole process that we have in having a developing organization on the local level, what this can give us. Next slide, please. For example, we have the dissemination activities that are very important. Could be like that you have information days about your strategy, objectives, measures, and applying rules. And then you involve the people in the LAG area. You can have other dissemination activities to raise the awareness about the possibility of making project applications or other networking activities. And also you make advice to applicants when they are trying to find a way for their idea. And another very important thing is, next slide, please. The meetings, trainings, and study tours and networking that the LAG can do. It's not always tied to the project, but it's tied to the animation of the local action group. And this could be on any various topic, what is interesting for your local area. And this is a useful tool to bring people together and improve the capability to cooperate and find new solutions and methods. And then, of course, this is for the managing authority. It's always good to have a transparent and system for applying. And it must be easily understandable for the applicants. And also it should be very well and transparent, formulated from the local action group so that people know what they are doing. So it's not like a secret group working. So this is a little bit theoretical, and I would like to show you some projects that we have had in our local action group, because I'm also a LAG manager in southwestern Sweden. Next slide, please. For example, classical European measure in the local action group strategies are tourism. And here in one of the villages, there was some nice little beaches, like you see, but they are not connected. So they applied for making a wooden, how do you say, path to walk, so that connects all the 5 small beaches that they have there. And it has been a huge success. They have thousands of visitors, and this also improves the quality of life for the people living there. Next slide, please. Another project that we have is that has been a huge success is the Team We Dream, they call it. And this was something that started up in 2016. I guess you remember that we had a huge influx of Syrian refugees in 2015, starting with that. And a lot of them came to Sweden, and especially to the area where I live and work. And and also, if you see the woman to the left, her name is Anna. She was just at that moment starting up a sport and event center in our little village. And all of a sudden, the neighboring rooms were filled with Syrian refugees taking language courses. And this was not her plan from the beginning, but she got so moved from all these people, and she got to know a lot of them. So they started out to do training together, sport training, and they have been taking part in different Swedish very famous ski runs, and always with the integrational part. And there's always two Syrian and two Swedish in the same team and stuff like that. And you see Mohammed in the bottom. He is a very big asset to our community now. He is also one of our best physical trainers, and that's great. And next picture, please. it is not only, next slide, please. It is not only about Anna and Mohammed, but it's about a whole gang that are doing physical exercise together, getting to know each other, and then in the end, integrating our new citizens in our society. Because as you know, it is not businesses hiring people, but it is people hiring people. So when you you're having a network, you have much better chance of being part of the society. Another thing that we have worked with a lot is our youth umbrella, which you need to show the next slide, please. This is a project where we make it possible for youth to apply for funding. We make it a little bit more simple, and we have a project leader that is taking care of the overall project, so that youth can apply for smaller sums of money, and they have to be between 13 and 25 years old. And this gives the youth a lot of self-confidence, engagement, and contacts, and personal development. And it's all kinds of stuff, like clearing the beach place to make a beach volleyball place. It's building skateboard ramps. It's doing disco, music nights, or even doing like mechanical stuff with their motorbikes. And it's a lot of things what the kids want to do, but the important thing we think is that it's for the kids to decide what they want to do, and we should not as adults decide for them. And that makes them very engaged, and they learn a lot from it. Next slide. I can show, for example, Sima. She's now 19 years old, a wonderful young woman, very clever and bright, and also a huge asset to our area. She arrived in Sweden in 2014 from Syria. She's today a high school engineer and a project leader in another organization, not ours, where she is also working with youth. And she says that our youth umbrella project, where she was engaged in 2 smaller projects, she has gained knowledge and experience. It gave her a large network. She got to know Swedish kids and people with the same kind of interest as she has, which made her integrate much quicker in our society. We gave her a summer job because she's such an extraordinary young person, and we needed her help. And she thinks that all this, that she met us and the leader approach, has given her the place where she is today, the current job, and that she's so well integrated in the society. And yeah, we took care of the asset that was there. And to summarize a little bit, next slide. Leader, sometimes it gets questioned if it does really work. And for example, in our local area, in the programming period 2007 to 2013, we had more than 130 projects spread all over our region. We also had a much bigger budget in 2007 to 2013 than now, but that is why we had so many projects. Also, it was great, and many bottom-up projects, wonderful in all kinds of different directions. But what did that give us? Next slide, please. Some hard results that we got from 2007 to 2013 was that 103 new businesses started in our area. 197 new jobs were created. We had a lot of active volunteers in the projects, but it's because it's not paid people always working in the projects, but a lot of volunteers. We had activities that led to a lot of visitors or spectators, and 111 new meeting places, 59 new projects, and a lot of ongoing activities, and much more. Of course, we made a finishing report of that programming period, and it's pretty thick. And what is going on in this programming period? Next slide, please. Where we are also going forwards, but we have unfortunately only half of the funding, because Yes, it got a little bit less in Sweden in 2014 and 22 it is now actually. So we think we will have 27 new businesses and we think we will have 139 new jobs. We have had already a lot of visitors and spectators. 27 new meeting places have been created, 17 new products and 30 new cultural and leisure activities. So it is, I think we can see even that we have great results if we count it correctly, but that is of course up to all the local action groups as well, and it's up to the ministry, especially in the beginning, to teach the local action group how to count the indicators and to keep a system on that. So to conclude, I would like to say for the next slide, please, that if you want to go fast, go alone, and if you want to go far, go together. And thank you very much. I cannot read Armenian, but I hope it's correct anyway. And so thank you, and I hope to welcome you in the ELARD network at some point as well.
Thank you, Ms. Eckert. Indeed, the translation was, the Armenian phrase was correct, as we noticed. Thank you for your presentation. It was very informative and interesting and also inspiring. Dear colleagues, we are, as we are coming close to the event, I just wanted to remind that the question and answer chat box in the leader in the Zoom network is there for you to ask questions if you have any. There have been questions about the possibility of sharing the slides and presentations with the participant, which we'll indeed do after the event. But if you will have any other questions or comments or questions to ask to the participants or to us, feel free to type it into that part, Q&A part. For the over 100 participants who are still with us, we want to also share two very motivational and very interesting experiences from two countries around the world. For the first one, I would like to invite Ms. Marta Martis, the President of the European Association of Information on Local Development, to talk about her experience in implementing LEADER in Moldova. Marta, please. Is Marta with us? Since there is probably a technical glitch, if Marta is not with us, we can continue with the next speaker and then come back when Marta reconnects. Okay, Marta is here, and we're waiting for Marta to start. It seems we have some technical issues now. Probably, let's go on with the next speaker, and then once the technical issues are solved, we'll come back to Marta because she has a very inspiring and very dynamic presentation as well. Let's move to Ms. Salome Bakashvili, if Ms. Bakashvili is with us. She's the Rural Development Program Manager of People in Need organization in Georgia, and she will be speaking about her leader experience in Georgia. And meanwhile, we'll hope the technical issues will be solved with Marta as well. Please, Ms. Bakashvili, if you're here with us, please.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I had the pleasure to visit Armenia several times and several amazing regions, and I hope I will have in the future. And I am really honored to present Georgian experience. Basically, as it was already mentioned, in European countries, this approach started almost 30 years ago. So we have a lot to learn, but from the early days of EU experience, because we also just recently started in 2015. Next slide, please. As you might be aware, Georgia is in the process of different reforms, and one of those components is to look at development measures from multi-sectoral point of view, introducing rural development and relevant policies and practices as a system. And as part of the European Union support to reforms, especially in the sector of rural development, specific program, NPART program, piloted leader approach, so-called leader CLLD, community-led local development approach in Georgia. Leader, as you might know, is just one of the components of rural development, and in its essence, it's just complementary measure to top-down initiatives from bottom-up. And local decision-making for rural development in general. Pilot actions projects started in 2015 in Georgia, and each project had goal to support establishment of local action group, following leader approach to develop local development strategies, and based on these strategies and identified priorities to launch several grant competitions. But it doesn't mean that with the project support ending, LACs are not functioning anymore. It's a long-term vision, so huge effort was actually put into capacity building of LAG members and LAG as a partnership and a platform for the local development, as well as the institutional support to make more integrated the leader approach into state policies, as well as the action plans of relevant ministries who are involved in rural development. Main donor, as I mentioned, for leader approach is and was EU NPART program. And recently in 2019, Czech Development Agency also funded one local action group in Georgia. As of today, as you can see on the slide, we have in total 13 LACs established and operational, but all of this started in three phases. Basically in 2015, it was only 3 pilot LACs. In 2017, basically 5 more, and in 2019, 5 more. So basically, all LACs establishment is supported by local or international NGOs under framework of projects. Mostly in Georgia, it's 4-year time span. And that means that already first round LAGs, first 3 pilots are operational independently since 2019. In 2018, LAGs operating in Georgia at the time jointly established national network of local action groups, which is called GALAG, Georgian Association of Local Action Groups, whose main goal is to facilitate cross-learning at national as well as international level, and advocacy for specific topics on behalf of all LAGs in Georgia. GALAG is also a member of ELARD, and thank you for that, European Association of Leader Association. And basically from 2015 to date, all 13 LAGs supported more than 800 local initiatives projects. And it's still ongoing because several projects are still ongoing, and we hope that all LAGs will, in this small time frame, fund even more projects. As for institutional framework, Georgian government has approved rural development strategy for Georgia 2021-2027, and its respective action plan that features leader approach and LAGs as one of the mechanisms for the whole process. And as rural development strategy is complex and involves different line ministries and other state institutions, mechanism to ensure delivery of rural development priorities is coordinated by Ministry of Environmental Protection and Agriculture. Currently, Georgian government, with the coordination of Ministry of Environmental Protection and Agriculture, has planned to develop, let's say, authorization mechanism for LAGs in Georgia, which includes criteria for local action group recognition, authorization, together with approval of the strategies and follow-up support mechanism funding small initiatives. As non-EU countries, we have to find our own frameworks for institutional recognition of leader, and this is the way how we found under rural development strategy. But before these criteria will be, let's say, approved and operational, all of Georgian LAGs are registered as non-profit organizations following leader principles. So they are also able to function in the meantime before the whole process will be finalized. Next slide, please. Here you can see the geography of our LAGs, and why I'm trying to show it to you. It's to underline that diverse character, starting from high mountainous area to centrally located. Thus, it means that each LAG has its own specific challenges as well as opportunities in terms of resources and operations. Basically, LAGs are formed based on 7 principles of leader and strategies developed based on best practices, guides of ENRD, European Network for Rural Development, but priorities and management structure varies for LAGs in Georgia depending on the geography, number of members, potential for development, and various other factors. People in Need is involved in leader pilot projects since 2015. And so far we supported establishment of 3 LAGs in Georgia, 2 with NPART program support and 1 with Czech Development Agency support. And now I would like to present some projects with respective priorities, and also to underline that usually practice in Georgia is that with the main priority, each LAG identifies cross-cutting theme so that projects are approved based on this model. Next slide, please. So, for example, this is Azbegi region, which is high mountainous and mainly scarce with the agricultural land and resources. So basically, here tourism sector is more strong and has more potential. And you can see that a lot of projects will be prioritizing different services, such as accommodation, which is also replying to the, let's say, cross-cutting issue of youth employment and mitigation of out-migration. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yes, thank you. Next project is Camp Zeta, camping and hiking services, which is also replying to employment for youth, women, and diversified income generation channels, because we also have to avoid creating a lot of similar type of businesses that don't really complement each other. So a lot of services supporting tourism was priority in this region. Next slide, please. Another sector that Georgian LAGs are working quite intensively is arts and artisans and various services, starting from product development, finishing with workshops and master classes. For example, you can see handmade accessories, enameling workshop. It's a really small project, but It also supports tourism sector, it supports cultural heritage, it supports employment, and it supports local artists. Next slide, please. And we should not forget, it's one of the biggest challenges in Georgian rural areas, access to quality services, such as simple as a beauty salon where you don't have to travel to the big city or the capital, or access to dental services, or access to quality building materials. And that also provides a lot of employment and economic growth, and in a small way mitigates the out-migration. Next slide, please. And one of the important topics as well, it's social benefits, starting from small cafes where people can sit together in evenings, or youth sport clubs, or art classes for local youth, to give them improved access to different education or healthy lifestyle choices, or even professional orientation locally, so that families would not think to migrate to the bigger cities for this kind of services. Next slide, please. And apart from typical grant competition mechanism that supports initiatives from applicants, LAGs are involved in many other activities, which is starting from international partnerships, conferences, joint projects, supporting local youths, organizing farmers markets, supporting networking of farmers, local festivals, and so on and so forth. So this is also quite important to mobilize all the resources available locally in the target community. Next slide, please. And lessons learned. Basically, we could say that not only Georgian, but early European country experience shows that LEADER CLLD should not be viewed merely as economic development tool for rural areas. It should also be viewed as a behavioral change process for local actors, basically giving them a platform to cooperate more closely, to seek out partnerships, to strategically design together the future of the LAG area. Another point I want to underline is sub-grants are just one of the many mechanisms to achieve goals set in the strategy, and the LAG's capacity should be built to use variety of tools to implement different partnerships, to facilitate the like activation of young people and different minority groups, and inclusive development in a local area. Another and one really important point is evidence-based advocacy. Next slide, please. At the state institution level from the start. Basically, it's really important to start collecting data, but also engaging with institutions, decision makers, to see a legal framework, to see opportunities to involve a leader in official mechanisms for its sustainability as an approach. It is really important also to adjust LAG operation procedures, structure at the local resources and needs level, depending on the number of memberships, how it will be managed after the project will be finished, what roles different people should carry, and what capacity they need should be identified at the early stage, as we learned. And it is really important to look at the balance of public, civic, and business sector. Usually it's an ongoing task to engage all disadvantaged groups or minority groups or young people who are usually looking to out-migrate for education, for employment reasons, to engage them more. Basically, what we could say is that we are still learning. Next slide, please. We are at the stage where we are looking at LAGs, how they can not only network at the local level, but as well as international level. So our local action groups are forming partnerships with different EU local action groups and the national networks. So it brings knowledge sharing, it brings different innovations, and builds institutional capacity of LAGs. Next slide, please. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions or we can share more details, I'm always happy to share our experience.
Thank you very much, Salome. I hope we managed to connect to Marta, or Marta connected to us.
I'm here.
There you are.
Me?
Yes,
yeah.
We hear you. Please, Marta.
Could you open my presentation? So good morning and good afternoon to everybody. Depends on the time zone you are at the moment. I'm in Hungary, close to Budapest. It's my home country. And this is the presentation. Dear Mr. Ambassador, Mr. Minister, Deputy Minister, governors, my colleagues in international colleagues and in Albania, it's my pleasure to speak in the name of the European Association for Information on Local Development, AIDL, where I'm the president. But the example I will introduce is from Moldova, where I worked as a European expert on the EU delegation UNDP SAR leader program. That was the first initiative to implement the leader approach in Moldova some years ago. The next slide, please. So the leader story, I don't want to, I was asked to have a short presentation. So I have a lot of photos. This is the only slide where I tried to summarize what happened. We started on a really blank page in 2016, that is less than 10 years ago. As we know, 5 years is really a short time in development work. So based on this, it's much more understandable why it is a big success today to have the plenty stories in Moldova about the 700 locally implemented leader projects, about the active local development work of more than 1,000 local action group members. Those are the elected representatives of the different leader groups. They represent, of course, the public authorities, small businesses, and the civil society. It's a fact that today 35% of rural territories are involved in the leader activities in Moldova. The national government and the parliament that acts on policy, legislative, and programming changes needed for national implementation of the leader CLLD approach. So that are the successes, and of course, the existing and functioning national leader network that has been established on the end of the SAR program in 2018, and still the manager of the national activities and the promoter of the leader program, focal point for all the LAGs and many other activities they have. I hope that some of my colleagues from Moldova hear me. Greetings to them. Next slide, please. These are the first LAGs, the pilot LAGs in 2 regions in the autonomous territory of Gagauzia and Tarakria region in south part of Moldova. The first 8 LAGs that were established in the first year of the program implementation in 2016 and 17. Next one. This is the map of Moldova. You see what was the result after 2 years. On the end of 2018, there have been 15 local action group initiatives registered in Moldova. Next one, please. This is the conclusion based on the above data that the EU Leader CLLD recipe works well in the Moldovan adaptation, as I feel and as I hear from colleagues from Moldova. The bread on the picture was the symbol of one of the leader groups on the beginning of the activities they created together. That's the lag. I think that's the lag Ekobuja that they made it. And next one, please. What is that? What is that? The story of leader. Next one, please. The picture is from go back, please, just for a moment to have a picture about one. Yes, this is one of the villages from Gagauzia in early spring in 2017, as I think. Next one, please. So what is the first step to create and formalize local partnerships? You see the photos, it is about the celebration of the signature. You see the people you see are from the public, the local public, business and civil society organizations. They represent the organizations during the signature procedure. As you see the faces, they are really committed to sign that paper. So this is 1 year after starting the leader implementation in Moldova, after mobilization of local people, after the fact that they decided to work together and they committed to start to work together. Next one, please. This is the next step in the leader implementation to agree on local strategy and action plan. You see people these are different local action group initiatives from the 2 pilot areas from 2017, where the people prepared shared the ideas, identified the goals, agreed on the strategy. The paper on the end is just a document that includes all the results of the discussions, common working meetings that they went through during the half a year when they prepared the strategy. Next one, please. This is again a photo about the strategy making process. Next one, please. Yes, another important thing to learn and exercise how to make decision, how to make a common decision, how to agree on things. That was an important step in the whole procedure, to have that, to create that skills, to be able to decide, on the strategy, on project selection, and many other things needed to better implementation of to a good implementation of the local strategy and the whole process. Next one, please. It's a decision about the networking activities of the LEX. That was the first leader conference in Moldova. After the first 1.5 years of the implementation, you see people vote with apples. The green means yes, the red means no, but we don't see any no at the moment. So let's go further. Next slide, please. Yes. And when the local action groups have started to work, when they have the commitment to implement a commonly agreed project locally, process and the strategy locally, then they implement projects. I put just some few examples into this presentation. This guy is one of the labor migrant returnees whose family, next slide, please, whose family, and he can live from this greenhouse development project that was financed in frame of the LEAD program in Moldova. It is in Gagauzia and Congas. Next one, please. This is a local market that was traditionally functioning in one of the villages on a cross point of different roads, but it was not in function for 20 years or maybe more, so it was rebuilt. Now it is an important point for selling local products of those who have really a small scale production at local level. Next one. This is a honey maker. We financed, the LEADER program financed the creation of the new bee houses. That was a very important project for her to produce more honey and to avoid labor migration. Next one. This is the same guy teaching my colleague on honey making. Next one. This is another important project, and it's one of the biggest ones in frame of the SAR program. That was the rural hotel and accommodation and restaurant that was established by a family, the women from a family, Anna Moro and her daughters. This is now a very famous place for wedding parties and for tourists. It is the only accommodation registered on international level, for example, in Booking.com, and has a high valuation from customers. Next one, please. This is another photo about the traditional Gagauzian bread and breakfast house. And on the corner, it's Anna Moro and her daughter. Next one, please. This is the next phase of activities to promote rural products. It's not enough to produce products, but we have to promote it. We have to help people to link urban and rural communities, consumers and producers. So we organized some exhibitions and open markets for local products during the implementation of the SART program. This is, I think, the first one. Next, please. You see the same marketplace, many people from the region. These people, most of these people are members of the different local action groups. As I know, most of them never met before the LEADER program started. And now this is an opportunity for exchange, for networking, and also to promote the local products. Next one, please. We invest in rural heritage and culture in any LEADER program implementation. This is one of the local dancing groups from Taraklia. Next one, please. And some other women groups in traditional clothes, dancing groups from different regions of territories of the regions, of the pilot regions. Next one. And this is about building territorial and the international networks and be part of networking. You see that the first level of networking is local. So the people from the different villages started to work together, started to organize meetings. They went together to marketplaces and events. And that was the first step to establish the territorial networking. That worked very well on the end of the project. And then a very official picture is the next slide, please. When the National LEADER Network of Moldova was connected to the European networks, here is the celebration of the signature of LEAD and Moldovan leader network. That was a huge event. Thanks for your attention. Have a great leaders CLLD journey and lots of success stories like we had in Moldova. Have it in Armenia. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marta. I'm glad you could join us after all. With this last presentation, I will wrap up today's session. The questions and answers are two, but they were about making available the presentations, which of course we will do. Then I will wrap up by thanking Ambassador, Minister, Deputy Minister, Mars Pets, all present for their participation, active participation. Last but not least, a warm thank you to the interpreters, the technicians to make this all possible today. Went off without a glitch, I would say. And good luck to those organizations and people implementing this good project. We will be in touch with you in the coming years. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.